do live chat. Okay.
So we are live now.
We are live now. Are you, can you get in the picture? I know this is going to be difficult because we have to use both computers tonight.
I'm kind of in the picture.
And since you're going to... No, Princess, go lay down,
Can you
baby.
turn it just this way slightly?
I can. How's that?
That's fine.
Okay. Hey, Suburban! I guess we are live.
I told you we were live.
Okay.
And I'm going to share it on Facebook.
Okay. We're going to give it just a minute. Hey, Pickers. No, baby. No, you can't come up today. No. Go lay down. Hey, Christy. Oh. Let's see.
Okay. There's that. No, that.
Okay, have you got your notes?
I have that, and my notes are. The rest
Your
of my
notes are over there.
there. Oh.
We hope to be... You show things. Tell everybody sorry for making them sick.
Sorry for the seasick. Take some Dramamine.
Tonight we're going to talk about the Founding Fathers and freedom of religion. And basically, were they really deists, atheists, and agnostics?
Because that's what we've been told. Even from when we were in school, they were talking about the Founding Fathers were not that religious, and it's more of a secular document. And they've pushed even more and more against that in the years since.
That says it's red. Are we? If you can still see us, please let us know. No.
We're good over there.
We're good over there? Okay.
I
think you need to let her out real quick.
Okey-dokey.
Okay. So that's what we're gonna talk about, and Steve's gonna be just a minute. But we're gonna talk about whether or not our founding fathers were Christian, or were they deists, or atheists, or agnostics. Because since the early 1900s, we have been taught that religion really didn't play a part in the Declaration or the Constitution. And we have also been led to believe that the Founding Fathers were at best deists, which means that they believed in one God. They didn't believe in the Trinity, which is still one God. The Trinity is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, three parts of one God. Deists don't believe that. Either do other religions, but Christianity accepts that. So I just want to start off with, we are going to talk about religion, and we are going to talk about the Founding Fathers and the framers of the Constitution and the Declaration, and we are going to talk about religion. I am going to ask everyone, please. I know these are very touchy subjects for people, and I know that tempers can fly. We are family friendly. We're doing this because we believe there's a need for the people of the nation to understand our roots. If we don't understand our roots, we're just doomed. So I'm asking everybody if you can be respectful. If you can't be respectful, I would ask you to leave and come back and watch it at a later date. Please leave your comments to be respectful in the chat. I have never timed anyone out or banned anyone. But if you are rude and disrespectful, It will happen tonight because I feel that important that we have to get the message out and that people have to be able to make up their own minds. So I was just laying out some of the groundwork of what we're going to do, that we're going to keep chat respectful, and if someone gets abusive, we will time them out or banned if necessary, because this is very important, and we're going to present information that is verifiable. We posted 3 links. They touch on some of the things that we're going to discuss today, and we're not going to tell you anything that we haven't been able to find.
And we're not asking you to take our word for this.
No.
We'll give you information. Go look it up for yourselves.
Exactly. That's the biggest thing is, no, do not want you to take our word for this. We want you to go ahead and find out for yourselves. If you disagree with us, prove us wrong. If you can't prove us wrong,
maybe you should consider the information.
Consider the information. Exactly. Okay, well, I'm going to let you...
Okay. Well, we talk about the founders...
You want your notes?
I've got this first part's there.
Can I have those?
That's where this leaves off. The Declaration of... And you turn back and you can get to the other part.
No, that's okay.
The Declaration of Independence, there were 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence. We constantly hear about 2 or 3 of them. And they tell us they were deists, they were atheists, they weren't all that religious. And they use that to say all the rest of them were the same. Well, in actuality, they've cherry-picked the 2 least religious, and that's a relative term, members of the Founding Fathers, the signers of the Declaration.
Founding Fathers / framers, because some are both. They were framers, and they signed the documents.
Yep. So there were 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence. There's roughly, depending on who you listen to, there's about 250 folks that are acknowledged as Founding Fathers. They were either signers of the Declaration of Independence, they were signers of the Constitution, they were members of the first Congress that debated and formed those documents and formed the Bill of Rights, and a few others that did other significant contributions.
And the ones that we are taught mostly are about Jefferson, Franklin, Madison, and Washington.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Pretty much it. There's a lot. There's even information. I thought I knew stuff. There's information that I didn't even know. And I'm not trying to say that I'm some great scholar. I'm just saying I learned a lot in doing this as well. So let's start off. Who are you going to start off with?
Well, I'm going to start off talking about some of the founders that were significant real quick. John Jay.
He was the first Supreme Court Justice?
First Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. One of the 3 people who wrote the Federalist Papers. He served in other roles as well. Patrick Henry, everybody knows his rousing "Give me liberty or give me death" speech. You really got to go look it up and read the whole thing. I didn't copy a link to that, but I should have. There's a lot more to it than that. Dr. Benjamin Rush. He was a signer of the Declaration of Independence. Mm-hmm. He was a signer of the Constitution. He served in cabinet positions in 3 different presidential administrations. Have you ever heard of him? Because I don't recall. I may have heard the name in passing, but nothing specific. When he passed away in 1813, newspapers of the day and the other founders that were still alive, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and others, acclaimed him as one of the 3 most influential founding fathers. Washington, Franklin, and Dr. Benjamin Rush were the big 3 of the founding fathers. This is their contemporaries said that, and you've never heard of them. We'll talk more about him later on. That's further in the back there. We're not taught about those guys. They used to be taught in American history. As a matter of fact, let me drop this link in here right now. If you're interested in the topic, here's a book that used to be taught.
Yeah.
until, what is it, 1920-ish?
26, somewhere in there. When it may have been taught even a little bit further, but what happened is in 1926 a book came out about George Washington, and up until that point, everything about Washington was that he was a good man. He was a Christian man. He was a moral man.
Hey, Terry Trotto.
Hey, Terry. He was all that, and to coin a phrase from the 80s, and the bag of chips.
Yeah.
In 1926, and later we'll tell you about that, but there was an author who wrote a book. He said, well, what if he wasn't all of that? And he wrote a book of fiction about George Washington. Later, in 1927, there was another book that was written that just tore the book from 26 apart. But
saying that Washington really was all that in a bag of chips.
Right. And, but then the progressive era was really growing, and they took the word of the book from 1926, and that's how most of us learned about George Washington.
Yeah. They built more on that. All of the books after that reference the 26 books, which has no footnotes, no references, no bibliography of previous studies.
Okay, well, we're getting off on a tangent.
But let's talk about the framers, the founders that we are taught about, the two least religious ones of the bunch.
Yes.
Franklin and Jefferson. Benjamin Franklin, everybody's heard he was a womanizer, he wasn't religious. Benjamin Franklin, as part of his public policy discussion, things he supported, said that Christianity should be taught in public schools as a foundation for education. He worked across the state of Pennsylvania because back then everybody's allegiance was to the states where they lived. He worked across the state of Pennsylvania to get church attendance up because church attendance, moral behavior was a key to a polite society. When Thomas Paine attacked religion in his book, The Age of Reason, one of the most impassioned defenses of religion was by Benjamin Franklin.
Of Christianity.
No, he defended Christianity. One of the most forceful defenses of Christianity was Benjamin Franklin. At the beginning of the Constitutional Convention, Benjamin Franklin stood up, he quoted numerous Bible verses, and he made the strong case to establish chaplains for the Constitutional Convention and to set up daily prayer
while they were in
session to bring divine blessings on their works.
On their efforts.
That's Benjamin Franklin, that atheistic heathen. Now, Thomas Jefferson, again, he's the one they call a deist. Thomas Jefferson called for the Great Seal of the United States when they were establishing all of these things to depict a Bible story and for the inclusion of God in our national motto, "In God We Trust." That was Thomas Jefferson.
That actually wasn't adopted until the 1950s.
But that's where he started.
Jefferson started that.
Now, when Thomas Jefferson was president, he negotiated treaties.
Hi, Tanya.
With Native American tribes. I posted a link to one of the treaties. That's one of the things in the description. The treaty calls for federal funds and the amount of, since that particular tribe, and I can't remember how to say it properly, so I'm going to look it up here. Kaskaskia Indian tribe. The treaty acknowledged that since the majority of the Indian tribe had converted to Catholicism and had been baptized and were practicing Catholics, the federal government for the period of 7 years gave $100 a year, which was a pretty substantial sum back then, towards the support of a priest, a Catholic priest, to minister to the tribe for their religious needs and help teach them and things.
In addition to that, he also gave $300 so that they may build a house of worship.
Yeah, $300
from the
towards,
federal government budget.
that was Thomas Jefferson.
Now, some of Jefferson's other accomplishments as a Christian was that he was a founding former of the Virginia Bible Society.
Mhm.
And
Well, while he was president, when he signed documents,
when he was president, okay. Thomas Jefferson.
I would talk to him.
I know. You can get to that stuff in a minute. Thomas Jefferson opened up the U.S. Capitol for church services every Sunday. And he attended all the time. But something that we just take for granted as separation of church and state, even though there is nothing that says separation of church and state. And we also posted in the description the letter that Jefferson wrote that everybody pulls separation of church and state from. So you can read the letter yourself. But the first, for the hymns, Jefferson ordered the U.S. Marine Corps Band to play at Sunday services at the U.S. Capitol building. It doesn't sound like a man who thinks that religion needs to be out of the government.
Yeah, not what I was going to say. As president, when he signed documents, at the end of things, he put, in the year of our Lord Christ, and then the year. Well, it would be in the year of our Lord Christ, 1803. So he invoked Christ into official government documents that he signed. In November 1800, the Capitol building was opened for use.
Mm-hmm.
And December 4th, 1800,
was the first?
The House of Representatives and the Senate each passed resolutions authorizing the use of the Capitol building as a church. Now, as vice president at the time, Jefferson was president of the Senate, and he cast the vote in favor of using the Capitol building as a church. And as Donna said, when he was president, music's nice with the worship service.
Hymns?
Yeah, so to support the playing of the hymns, he ordered the Marine Corps Band to come and play. Regarding the separation of church and state, Jefferson's position was separation of church and state will keep the government from stopping the practice of religion.
Yes.
That's all.
That's it. Not that the government is supposed to stop the people from practicing religion in any government function. It's to stop the government
from getting involved or telling you how to do things or what you can or can't do. In the letter to the Danbury Baptist Convention, he talks about the difference between actions and opinions.
Hi, Anita.
And back in the day, they felt that your actions were subject to scrutiny, but your opinion and what motivated you was totally separate from the government's purview. Your opinions on how you chose to do things are your own to do as however whatever guides and forms your mind and how you want to approach things. And that's specifically the way it's written in that letter.
Okay. Now we have a lot to do in a very short time, and this is going to be a what is this? Multi-live stream.
A multi-episodal kind of a thing.
Right. There's more to come on other days. Okay. Now.
This was the stuff about Madison, because you've heard Madison was the primary author of the Constitution. You've heard that, right? Well,
in actuality, he wasn't. Though he did help. He proposed 70 different items to be considered for the Constitution.
Yeah, when the Constitutional Convention was debating everything, he put forward 70 different items.
But he was outvoted. 40 of his items were outvoted. No, they will not be part. So there are actually founders who did more. Let's get to the religion on.
Okay, well, that's the rest of the
Yeah.
stuff. I didn't get everything typed up. Let's see.
That's okay.
One of the founders, John Witherspoon, was a ordained gospel minister.
Go ahead.
He came to America as an ordained minister. He was offered several positions in Scotland. As a matter of fact, a relative of his who had no heirs and was substantially wealthy offered him to make him his heir if he would stay there. And for the religious freedom to expand, he came to America. He came here to be president of what's now Princeton University. He wrote several books of sermons. He was responsible for 2 different American Bible editions. The one from 1791 is known as America's first family Bible. That's the one in 1791. It's generally the text of the King James version of the Bible, but it was printed here in America. And since we just got done with the recent unpleasantness with the Crown deciding we weren't answering to them anymore, they decided that they weren't going to call it the King James version edition.
Because the word was much more important than any king.
The specific quote from John Witherspoon was that it's God's word, not that of a mere earthly king. So the first family Bible printed in the United States was authored by John Witherspoon, who was
it's considered the first family Bible, but it was just simply called the Holy Bible.
The Holy Bible, that's right. Another one of the founders, Charles Thompson. If I hit a name that you've heard of, just put something in the comments. Charles Thompson was a secretary of the Congress. He signed the first draft of the Declaration of Independence. He and John Hancock were the only 2 ones who signed the first draft as they prepared it. He was responsible for Thompson's Bible. The first.
Now, how many have heard of Thompson's Bible? Thompson Study Bibles?
Yeah. It was the first translation in America from the Greek Septuagint into English. It was a completely new translation from the ancient Greek into English, done in America. It took him 25 years. He did it back in the Revolutionary War days. It's still considered one of the most scholarly American translations of the Bible. Anita said, yes, she's heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
And Christy, okay, Thompson's Bible, he was one of those deist, atheist, agnostic.
No, he wasn't. You're saying that.
Yes, that's what you've been told that the founders were, but he was a renowned Bible scholar. His Bible is still used today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So these are the things that really are true about American history that you've not heard. They say whoever controls things today controls history. Whoever controls history controls the future. By controlling what's taught today, they've managed to wipe out the Christian foundations of our nation. They managed to wipe out the understanding that all of the founding fathers were indeed religious, and they wrote these things based on their scriptural and biblical Christian values.
95% of the founding fathers, and founding fathers, remember, are around 250. 95% of them were Christian. And practicing to a point that we would be shameful if we ran into them and said, but we're Christian.
Well, Thomas Jefferson, the things we talked about Thomas Jefferson, if you look at starting the Bible Society, had church in the Capitol building, had the Marine Corps band playing for services. If you do those things today, he would be considered a right-wing fundamentalist. He would be a religious radical. And he's one of the least religious of the founding fathers.
Now, how many have heard of the Jefferson Bible? It said that the Jefferson Bible, he took out everything that he disagreed with in the Bible. That's not what he did. How many of you have Bibles where Jesus' words are highlighted in red? I have some Bibles that they are. I have some Bibles that they aren't. But basically, what was highlighted in the red? Jefferson would have been offended for it to be called the Jefferson Bible. What he did is he composed a Bible of all of Jesus' teachings and his words. It was called the moral, and I forgot to write it down, of Christ of Nazareth. Okay? I will get the specific, see if you have it. This book, this Bible, that people like to say that Jefferson took everything that he disagreed with out, is not in fact true. What he did was he took all the teachings, everything that Jesus said in the Bible. He put that together. And the reason he did that is because, whether you want to call them Indians or Native Americans, he did that because he thought if they were shown Christ's words, his ways, what he taught, that they could better understand. If they could follow it straight through, they would better understand and come to know Christ themselves.
The life and morals of Jesus of Nazareth is what he called it. I posted the link in there that you can look it up.
He didn't take out what he disagreed with. He highlighted what he thought would convert the Native Americans of the time to Christianity, to Christ.
Yeah.
Not even to Christ.
To Christ.
Yeah.
It's not that he thought he wanted to get rid of what he didn't like. He was condensing down the Gospels so that he would better able to put it forward to the Native Americans. What you looking for?
I'm looking real quick. Okay. Let's see. Franklin, Jefferson, Madison we'll come back to. Okay.
We talked about Witherspoon. We talked about Thompson's Bible.
Now let's go to John Hancock.
Okay, when John Hancock was the governor of Massachusetts.
And that's also one of our... Did you put that in as one of the links?
I don't remember. I don't think it's in there.
Okay, we'll add more links.
Okay, John Hancock, when he was serving as the governor of Massachusetts, he of the great big signature so King George could read it with his bad eyes, issued over 24 proclamations calling for the citizens of Massachusetts to come forward in prayer and fasting for various topics. One of them specifically was he called for a statewide day of prayer that the citizens of Massachusetts might pray for someone that does not know Christ should come to know Christ as their Lord and Savior. Now, that was a statewide proclamation. Everybody got, the hear ye, read it in the town square. He did 24 of those things while he was governor, calling for prayer on various topics. So, probably could say that he was a practicing Christian at that point. John Trumbull was, as governor of Massachusetts, I believe, called for a collection to be taken up across the state for people to make contributions for the Society of Missionaries so they could go out and preach the gospel, to evangelize, to spread the word of Christ. Again, not hiding his light under a bushel. I want to talk about Benjamin Rush some more. We talked about him briefly. We talked about him being acclaimed as one of the top 3 most significant founding fathers. He was also the father of American medicine. He personally trained over 3,000 medical students and brought forth, doctors to serve the new country. He made medical discoveries that they still use today.
He was a national leader in the abolition movement for 40 years, founded the Abolitionist Society.
He was one of the founders. He was the driving element. A lot of the founding fathers were against slavery.
Here's something else that you might not know, and I didn't know this. We were one vote away from slavery being abolished with the Constitution. One vote away. Because that one vote did not happen, we had slavery in the country for another 120 years.
Well, before we were a country, one of the things, if you saw our thing about the Declaration of Independence, one of the things we talked about were there were 11 instances of government overreaching where the colonies would pass laws. They had to send them to Europe, send them to England for Parliament, for the king to affirm. Okay? One of the things that was passed by several of the colonies was a law outlawing slavery in that particular colony. Every law outlawing slavery that the colonies sent to England was ignored and cast aside by the British, because the British used a lot of slave trade in the Caribbean for the production of sugar cane, for wealth that they were mining out of the New World.
4% of the slaves that were captured came to the colonies. Most of them went to Argentina.
Brazil or the Caribbean.
Yes.
But
the slave trade was alive and well and practiced far longer in Europe.
Yeah, it wasn't. There were efforts afoot to do away with slavery from the early colonial days. Anyway, Dr. Benjamin Rush founded the Abolition Society fighting against slavery. He was...
I'm going to do this one.
Okay, go ahead.
In 1791, founded the Sunday School movement. Started the First Day, and that's what it was called.
The First Day Society.
Which grew into what we know as Sunday School.
So, before that, you went to church, you heard preaching, you had a sermon, you sang some hymns, you went home. Well, to further...
And understand, when they went to church for the day.
Yeah, there wasn't any of this, well, it's been an hour, are we going to brunch yet? Sermons would be several hours sometimes. So, anyway, to standardize religious education for people, he founded the First Day Society, and that grew into Sunday School, the Sunday schools as we know them today.
Okay. In 1808,
the first Bible Society founded in the United States was founded in 1808. Dr. Benjamin Rush organized and started the American Bible Society. He was the author of the Constitution governing the American Bible Society. He came up with the rules, the guidelines, how to go about it.
The Constitution of the American Bible Society.
Of the American Bible Society.
Yeah.
He wrote that. Now, specifically in two of the principal benefits he named for having a Bible Society in the first place, study of the Bible would help establish a personal relationship with God through Jesus Christ. Now, that's named as a benefit of a Bible Society. And two, the Bible study would diminish all societal problems. In living by the Bible, man becomes both humanized and civilized. So, since those are noteworthy goals, first of all, caring about the salvation of others, the Bible Society is to help them to develop a personal relationship with God through Jesus Christ. And the Bible study diminishes societal problems because our Constitution is written for the governance of a moral people. I can't remember who said it off the top of my head.
It's in the notes.
Yeah. But that's a quote. It will serve for no other. They wanted people to be devout, to follow the Bible, to follow Christ's teachings, because that would lead to a happy and harmonious society. Now, does that sound like an atheist or a deist? That's not the case. These were very devout, very deeply believing Christians, practicing their religion in all aspects of their life.
Now, this is an actual quote from Dr. Benjamin Rush. Bible study would diminish all social problems. In living by the Bible, man becomes both humanized and civilized.
So,
which you said, but
those are things that were significant. Now, let's see where we are.
We have lots of notes. We're here.
Another accomplishment of Dr. Benjamin Rush, one of the reasons he's considered one of the top 3 founders, to reduce costs and expenses and to speed up printing of the Bible, Dr. Rush and the American Bible Society came across something called stereotype printing, an early form of mass production. Now, they came up with a way to mass produce the Bible. It was still expensive. With President Madison's help, in an act passed by Congress, the Bible Society obtained the plates to print a Bible, and they came out with what's called America's first stereotyped Bible. So here's another Bible developed and printed, mass-produced for the American people by Dr. Benjamin Rush and the Bible Society, which he founded. Now, just a brief note. These men were all deeply devout. They were very, very involved in their faith. You'll notice that they didn't park their faith on the shelf when they stepped into the public arena.
No, it was very much part of who they were and how they would govern or write governing documents.
So the current phrasing you hear is you can be as religious as you want, but you have to park it at the door when you go out to do whatever public service or whatever.
That's basically a progressive era.
That's exactly
movement.
Right. The founders not only lived their faith in their personal lives, they produced their works in public, formed and guided by their faith.
Yes. And wrote our founding documents with that in mind.
Yes. So anytime they tell you the founders wouldn't have had that, or they were against blah, 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 go look at the book I put the link in there for, The Lives of the Founders of the Signers of the Declaration of Independence.
Okay. Now, Samuel Adams.
A quote from Samuel Adams, a profession of his faith. Samuel Adams said, "I rely upon the merits of Jesus Christ for a pardon of all my sins." Robert Treat Paine, another one of the founders. "I am constrained to express adoration of the author of my existence in full belief of his forgiving mercy revealed to the world through Jesus Christ, through whom I hope for never-ending happiness in a future state."
Okay.
So these are the people who were our founding fathers. If I'm throwing out names, James Treat Paine. Well, you know Samuel Adams, and it's not just for the logger. You know, these are people who were instrumental in the development of the founding documents of our country. They're called founding fathers. They developed.
You might hear them as framers. You might hear them as founding fathers.
They framed the development of the Constitution. They developed the first Congress came up with the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. Charles Carroll.
Now, you might have heard of Charles Carroll, and I'm going to bet more than not in the classroom, but if you ever saw National Treasure,
the movie National Treasure with Nicolas Cage,
they mentioned Benjamin Carroll.
Charles Carroll.
I'm sorry, Charles Carroll. Let us tell you about Charles Carroll.
Charles Carroll was the last survivor of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. In 1832, he passed away. Now, his quote, one of the things he said, "Hey, Teresa Dean."
Hey, Teresa.
Albany Mountain. Hi, guys. Sorry, we're just kind of on a roll. "On the mercy of my Redeemer, I rely for salvation, and on his merits, not on any works that I've done in obedience to his precepts." Now, his other writings show his faith was the chief reason he entered into the Revolution. He was fighting to preserve his religious liberty. He was so committed to his faith that he personally funded and built a Christian house of worship. Still loving the haircut. Okay. His life and works confirm he was a strong and outspoken Christian. And he was one of the handful of Americans who have been honored with a statue in the Capitol building. In the East Central Hall in the Capitol, there's a statue of Charles Carroll.
Another one you may not have heard of, Francis Hopkinson. Hopkinson. Okay? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm just getting a sip of water in my throat.
I can't read your...
Oh, okay. He was a church music director and a choir leader.
Hello, Princess.
Excuse me.
Okay. Responsible for the 1767 hymnal of his earliest printed in America. He set psalms to music, one of the first to place musical notes in the staff so you could see to sing the melody.
Right, because we all go to church, when you look at the hymnals, it's got the words, it's got the notes, so you can see, even if you can't really sing like me, I can't read music, but I can see the notes go up and down. So I take a shot. I kind of figure where they're headed, and I try and play.
It really kind of sounds like that.
It does. Just because I can't sing, don't mean I won't sing.
He makes a joyful noise unto the Lord.
I claim that. I own it. I rock that one. Let's see. So,
Princess, no.
Again, another founder who wrote hymnals.
Go lay down.
But
he was the first one to do that. He
put the music, the notes in with the words so that you could see it and follow along.
Okay. Now, Richard Stockton.
Richard Stockton was one of the founders. Now,
and we're running through these because we're only on for an hour, but we will be doing more, and we will talk about more of the founders.
Okay.
Sit.
In the Declaration of Independence.
Sit.
They close so that they say, towards these goals, we pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
And they meant that.
They meant it. Richard Stockton, one of the signers, was captured by the British.
And spent most of the war...
As the British didn't see this as a war for independence, they saw it as treason to the crown. And they had a different way of doing things. He was tortured and abused.
Most of the war.
Very, very much so, to the point where his health suffered drastically for it. He was eventually released in a prisoner exchange, but his health never recovered. He lingered on. He was in poor health, and he passed away not long after. Now, knowing he's coming to his end, he had written his last will and testament. I want to quote something in here from his last will and testament. I think it proper here not only to subscribe to the entire belief of the great and leading doctrines of the Christian religion, such as the being of God, the universal defection and depravity of human nature, the diversity of the person, the divinity of the person, and the completeness of the redemption purchased by the blessed Savior, of divine faith accompanied with an habitual virtuous life.
Can you call her around?
But also...
Steve, she's shaking. Can you call her around?
She's going around.
Okay.
But also, to exhaust, I exhort and charge my children that the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. So, in his last will, he urged his children to come to know God. The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. That's where he wanted them to come away with and guide their lives. Now, we talked about Benjamin Rush. No Big Bear Homestead, please. I don't know if they're on tonight or not. I hadn't talked to them.
Yes, I believe they are on tonight.
Okay. The founders believed in divine intervention in their lives and in the efforts they were making and things that were going on.
Just a second. I'll find out.
John Adams and Thomas Jefferson had been friends initially, but over the years they became political rivals and actually came to be enemies, and they really didn't care for each other. Well, remember Dr. Benjamin Rush was friends with both Adams and with Jefferson. Donna, he was on Facebook saying no stream.
Okay.
Dr. Benjamin Rush felt that he had placed on him that he needed to reconcile Adams and Jefferson. They were both pious, dedicated men who worked for the betterment of our country, and he thought that he was called to mend fences, help them come together.
He actually had a dream.
He had a dream that they should reconcile. He talked in a letter to John Adams.
Adams, yeah, sorry.
Let's see.
No.
Yeah, he wrote a letter to Adams, and they told John Adams about the dream that he had, wherein in his dream, over time, Adams and Jefferson would become friends again, and they would exchange correspondences and letters.
There would be many.
Great volumes of correspondences between them.
And you can actually read them.
And they would become friends again. They would set their differences aside. And even he told Adams told Adams that you will both die on the same day.
In his dream.
In his dream, he saw that they would, and he told him, you will die on the same day, on the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Well, Adams and Jefferson both died on the same day.
Yeah, they did.
And
1826? I believe it was in 1826. As a matter of fact, there's a quote, and I now want to find out if it's true, that when Adams died, before he died, he said, at least Jefferson won't take this from me.
Yeah, and didn't know that they died within hours of each other. Elaine Cardenas, where can I read these articles? Okay, in the description for this video, there are links to some of these.
Go lay down. Go lay down. We listed some of them. You can go to the National Archives. They have all of this stuff. Go lay down, princess. I don't know what it. I'm sorry, our dog's a little antsy today, and I don't know why she's so antsy. But you can go to the National Archives. We have put 3 links in there. The letter from Jefferson to the Danbury Conference. The letter, we haven't gotten to Madison yet, but we put something, Madison's, the last thing he wrote, the memorandum. It's there. May I have it? Okay. And what was the other one we put? Oh, the treaty that Jefferson signed, giving $100 a year
to the one of the Indian tribes.
To one of the Indian tribes for a priest, and $300 out of the federal budget to build a house of worship. Okay. I'm sorry, guys.
Okay, I'm popping a link in there. It's the archives.gov, the founders.archives.gov. It's got a lot of, not all of the founders, but some of the principal founders. There are biographies, there's articles, there's links to things that they've done.
Now, James Madison, we hear a lot about James Madison, and that he absolutely believed in the separation of church and state, that he was not religious, and it's all because of this document, which we posted a link in the description. It's called the Detached Memorandum. Now, you read more of this, so I'm going to let you talk about it. But in 1803, President Jefferson did it. Oh, no, okay.
Okay. Well, while he was in his younger days, all through his life, James Madison was a religious person. He was on the committee that approved the first chaplains for the military for Congress.
Mm-hmm.
They were they were paid with public funds. He issued religious proclamations as president, calling the nation to fasting and prayer. That was, something that was commonly done by pretty much all of the presidents. Now, through his public life, he conducted himself as a practicing religious Christian. When he was, I guess, up in his 80s, when he was getting near the end of his life, he wrote
The
the Detached Memoranda. It's commentaries on a lot of different things that he wanted to get his thoughts down on. One of the things he did in the Detached Memoranda is he said that it was wrong to have chaplains paid for out of the public treasury. He said it was wrong. Now, so the progressive have seized on that. See, he's renounced religion. He's not a religious man. That's why you hear so much about Madison as one of the primary movers in the development of the Constitution, because they can hang a tag on him that he wasn't religious.
But that's not quite what he's saying. And that's why we felt it necessary to put the link to the memorandum so that you could...
That's the last link I posted. If you
and
go
it's
down,
in the description.
It's like section 4 in there. He talks about establishing the chaplaincy, and he thinks that was a mistake. What he says, if you read the details, is he thinks it was a mistake to fund them from the public treasury. It wasn't a mistake to have them, but, for example, for Congress, if you have a couple of ministers that are assigned as or selected as chaplains, as a bare minimum, he calls specifically names that the Protestant religious practices would not be satisfactory to Quakers or to Catholics. So you're excluding them, so that would make it unconstitutional. He thinks it would be more appropriate for
if the members of
the various congregational groups in Congress and the other folks there would
raise the money themselves to pay for the
themselves,
chaplain,
so that each group would have their own chaplain, so that no one was excluded. He's not against religion. He's just saying
we are basically a Protestant group, but we do have the Quakers and we do have the Catholics, and we're being unfair to them by not having their
right.
beliefs.
So that was his dispute there. His discussion against chaplains in the military, he talked about if you have a devout military, if the body of people who serve are devout, then you're going to have educated and devout officers as a minimum who are capable of leading the worship service. So why establish chaplaincies for them? If you have a irreligious and non-believing military, if the troops aren't there, having a paid person to exhort them to religious faith isn't really going to do much. So you're going to have religious learned men, let them conduct the services.
Act in the capacity of a chaplain.
Right. Now, he did turn around and say, well, that doesn't really work for ships on sea because they're isolated. So maybe they should have them after all.
So he wasn't saying that the military should not have chaplain services. He was saying that you had learned men that were officers that could lead.
They could do it already.
The services.
So, yes, that's right. Again, he's not anti-religion. He's just debating how to best provide those services. Who should be ministering to the troops. So,
and then again, except for on a ship.
On a ship, you got what you got, and you can't go to the next camp over if they don't have somebody who's learned in your denomination. So maybe ships could have chaplains that cover things.
Right.
So even in his own, that's not constitutional, except maybe it is. I read his writings. There's the link. So you'll hear Madison was not was irreligious. He's not. He had some change of heart on some of the details, but he didn't say do away with religion. He was just disputing the details.
How do we best implement religious services into our military? So that's what that is.
Yes. Okay, we're almost out of time, and that's the bulk of what we had.
Jason and Robin aren't going on tonight. Okay. Their internet is out.
Well, we talked about that.
Okay. So we gave a quick overview of 5, 6, 7
Of the founding fathers.
Of the founding
yes.
fathers and the framers.
I gave you the link to the founders online at the Archives of the United States. That's a good place. They list some of the ones that are over there. 181,000 searchable documents. So there's a good start.
With the progressive movement, which was led by well-known atheists of the time, there was a concerted effort to move all of this out of public education because they didn't believe in God. I mean, I don't care what God you have, they don't believe in any God. So, prior to this was information known by everyone, by school children, by adults. The further we get away from the time of the founders, the further we get away from what they really meant. So when you hear that our founders were not actual Christians, that they were deists, atheists, agnostics, that's untrue. If you look at all the books, textbooks that are written, they go back to the books of the 1930s, that go back to the book of 1926, they don't go back any further than 1926. That's why it's important that you become familiar with what is actually written, what these men actually stood for, because to believe they were atheists, agnostics, and deists is to believe that there was never an intent for a religion to be part of education, part of our daily life. As a matter of fact, we have founders who have said that the Bible should and must be taught in school because we need to have moral. If we have moral people, we do away with the problems of society. I'm paraphrasing that. Do you remember?
I'm looking for real.
He's looking for the quote real quick. Nothing can be further from the truth that our founders and framers were not Christian, and they did not live their lives and perform their duties as founders and framers with a Christian faith. They would put us to shame.
Okay.
We're later going to talk about Congress meeting, and they had their opening prayer for Congress, and it went on for hours.
Okay, John Adams' quote, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other." So that's how they felt about it. It was essential that we be moral and religious people. The whole foundation of the system of government where we're governed by laws, and the law is supreme, the republic that we have is founded with that in mind. Pick a religion of your choice. That's okay. That's entirely up to you. But you have to have values.
Thank you, getting started.
To base yourself on. That's what that was, and that's another quote from John Adams. One of the things we kind of touched on, one of the founders, and I'm going to throw my own personal thing in here because I really like this.
Okay.
If you want to see a rousing explanation of why we separated from the English, read Patrick Henry's full speech.
Yeah.
I just posted a link to it. If it doesn't give you shivers down your spine, if it doesn't give you chills, I don't know what to tell you. Because
I agree.
The reason he's counted among the founding fathers, Virginia was debating how to proceed with regard to the offenses of the crown against the colony. before they were a state, when they were still a crown colony, and they were going back and forth on what should we do. Do we separate? Do we go with the, keep working? Read Patrick Henry.
Exactly. What was the book? The Maxim of George Washington that was written, and it had politics, it had religion, it had different subcategories, and the people of the time wrote forwards to each section, and it was telling their personal experience with George Washington and how he was as a man, his character. Well, that book was reprinted. And all that was written by people who personally knew him was removed, and a college professor wrote in the beginning, George Washington, a deist. And that's all you hear about the man himself.
Yeah, I posted a link to the Maxims of George Washington.
Okay, now this is the reprint, and this is the one that says, basically, he's a deist. That's it. We will...
Well, I don't know if this is...
yeah.
No, this has got...
Does?
Yeah, this is back to the original, I believe.
Oh, very good. We're going to try and get some more of these books. We have a few. Get some more of them and show you them. We're going to go through them. As we said in the beginning, don't have to take our word for it. You should never take anyone's word. You can know us through YouTube. You can like us. But verify. Verify what we're saying. If you disagree with us, please be open-minded enough to look and read it for yourself. I know there's things I've learned. If you go back to the original documents, if you go back to their writings, you can't dispute. Why would you want to know someone else's interpretation of what the men said instead of reading what the men said and knowing for yourself?
Okay, Teresa Dean said, atheist and agnostic, there is a very fine line between them. It is the lack of belief of a god or gods, or for anything that is not proven by science. An atheist denies the existence of God. There is no God, no God, not happening. An agnostic says, okay, there may be something out there, I don't know what it is.
Prove it to me.
Hello, Celtic Nana.
Hey, Celtic Nana.
Okay, that's the Washington's Maxims.
Mm-hmm.
I poked that up. I had something else on my mind, and I can't remember what it was.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
We're running a little bit over time. Jason and Robin from Big Bear Homestead are not going to be on tonight, so we're hoping that you don't mind. If anybody has any questions, like I said, love to talk to everyone. Please be respectful. I don't think that we've ever timed anyone out or banned anyone.
Well,
but if you are...
We had the one tonight that got timed out.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
But if you are respectful, if you are... debate, that's fine. But please take the time to go back and look at the documents themselves so that you can read for yourself. Make up your own. I cannot understand, and I'm not being critical, I just really can't understand why someone would rather take someone else's word for it instead of the person who whatever is being attributed to.
I'm going to throw another link up. My computer's doing its own thing. Colonialhall.com has biographies of 111 founding fathers.
Okay, Princess, you gotta... Oh. Watch out, Princess. Sorry. Okay, guys. Are there any questions? Are there anything you want to discuss? We are going to continue on with this because we feel that it is important for people to actually know their history. If you don't know where you came from, how can you move forward?
Yeah, it's important to understand the origins of our country, and even more so now that there's clearly a concentrated effort to try and obscure history. If you hide the history, then you can remake what's going on and you can claim what you want. Come here, Princess. Come around here. So our goal, as always, is to educate and inform.
Share your knowledge.
That's it.
We will be back.
Teresa said, yes, please do not just believe in all that is on Google. And Wikipedia in some areas is okay. In other areas,
it's sorely lacking.
People edit what they want to on it. So if it's a controversial area, people are going to go in there and put what they want. If it's a non-controversial area, you can probably figure somebody who knows something about it wrote it, and that's all good. But things have been edited off of Wikipedia because people disagreed with it.
I'm going to do something that those of you who have been with us for a while know that we don't normally do. Check what we say. Read what we say. Go to the links. Do your own research. But if you find what we say is true, please share this, because the lack of knowledge of our history is horrible. And in this series, we're going to ask you, if you know somebody that this could help, please share it.
Yeah, and we've all seen the man in the street interviews where they ask people basic, fundamental, everybody should know information and get a kick or a laugh at, or, oh my gosh, how could they be so uninformed? Well, that's because they're being deliberately, A, misled, or B, not taught what they really should know. So we're trying to provide information. If it's beneficial, if you know somebody who could use it, please share. We just want to educate, provide, enlighten, help people understand. Because there's a reason I believe this is the greatest country on the planet. I've been in a lot of them between my father's service, dragging me around with him, and my own service, being and seeing and going places. This is where we need to be. This is a great place. There's a reason it's great. Princess, come around. There's a reason it's great, and we need to make sure people know what it is.
Yeah. So if what's Terry saying?
Can't want to read the link you posted. We'll do it later. Can't stay awake right now. Night, everyone. I will be sharing it. Okay, Terry.
Good night, Terry.
And Teresa Dean said it's getting missed all too often. I do not think our school systems really go over real history, just enough to pass a test. That's all. It's not just, the question is, what do they put on the test that they then teach to?
Right. And I'm just going to ask a quick question. Did anyone hear something that you didn't know before?
If we presented stuff that you didn't know or
hadn't heard,
just let us know. Was this at least something new? A new wrinkle for the brain?
And like I said, we don't normally ask this.
Suburban said lots.
But we are asking you to please share this, because we just feel that passionate about this. This is our history. This is who we are as a people. We should not forget who we are as a people.
Yeah. Let's see. Anita said yes. There were several things. Christine Betts said yes. Albany Mountain Home said yes, and thank you for sharing. Teresa Dean said they're not teaching the kids to ask questions, or why is it this way, or why did it happen, or what was the start and ending to it. That's right. They don't teach them to think. They teach them read, remember, regurgitate.
So we're going to go ahead and go. We are going to continue on with this. We invite you to be with us each week. We thank you for being with us. And as always, share your knowledge. Have a safe and blessed day.
Throw questions or comments in the comment section and let us know what's up.
Yeah, that's the other thing. If there's something that you want to know, put it in the comments, and we will try and have an answer for you by the next week. Or sooner, if we can.
I like that, Steve. I'm going to use that quote. What did I said something profound? What was it? Because I missed it.
But anyway, have a safe and blessed day, and share your knowledge. And please share this video and all that we're doing on the Constitution. We appreciate your time. We know that there's 1,000 other things that you could be doing than staying with us.
Okay, the read, remember, and regurgitate. Yeah. Yeah, I've used that a lot.
So, thanks for coming by, everybody, and have a good night.